reunited when she was 14. Baba was more than her brother, her master, her lord, and her king. He and his beloved Mara, her all and everything. Her love is a song for the ages, a servant who chose to be bound, a sparkling star in the heavens above, the most beautiful jewel is found. The brightest star in the heavens, so close to the moon and the sun, a guiding light to the lovers of God, perfect and most fortunate one. Baba had joined her to Mara, by his wish they were never apart. She was the constant companion and friend to the queen of his heart. Our love is a song for the ages, a servant who chose to be bound, a sparkling star in the heavens above, the most beautiful jewel in his crown. To stay by his side and deserve him, her only wish or desire. Money was gentle as flowers, her love much fiercer than fire. She always danced to his music, in silence or thundering sound. She danced right into his ocean and drank until she was drowned. Her love is a song for the ages, a servant who chose to be bound, a sparkling star in the heavens above, the most beautiful jewel in his crown. Her love is a song for the ages, a servant who chose to be bound, a sparkling star in the heavens above, the most beautiful jewel in his crown. A most beautiful jewel in his crown.
The way Mani got her name was that when Shireen was in labor, very close to it, Shahryar would read to her from the Shahnameh, a Persian epic. And that night, he was reading the story of Princess Manija. And so that's how she got her name. Shireen was rushed to Sassoon Hospital December 15th, 1918. Baba was 24 at the time. He cycled to the hospital and was the first one to hear the news. A Zoroastrian baby is never handled until washed, but Baba hurried to where Mani was, picked her up, kissed her, and cuddled her despite his mother's protests. In later years, when people would tell her how they came to Baba, Mani would smile and say, "I didn't come to Baba. Baba came to me. And I was born with one ambition, to be with Baba." She was the only one who could say she was God's sister. When Mani was 5 years old, Baba brought Mera to their home in Pune. He gave Mera a toy to give to Mani. But neither Mara nor Mani could remember what the toy was, but Mani always remembered how beautiful Mara's hair was. When Mani was 7, Shireen Mai wrote to her son about his little sister. And she wrote, "Night and day, Mani remembers you." During Mani's school holidays, Shireen would take Mani to visit Baba wherever he was. Mani only wanted to be with Baba. She just waited till the time would come and he would turn the key. She pleaded with him to come daily in her dreams. When Mani was 8, she picked flowers to help Mara make crowns and sandals for Baba. So when she got back home to Pune, she went and took her annas and got elastic, and she went ahead and made a crown and cardboard for the sandals. So when she presented them to Baba, they were so tiny. He put the tiny crown on his head, and he put the cardboard sandal on his smallest toes. In 1932, Mani received the first overseas letter from Baba. She carried it around until she came to Baba by the end of the same year. And he wrote to her, "Darling Mani, I would feel most pleased if you could stay with Mara and Naja, leading the present pure life and obeying my usual orders. But Mother might object and not let you stay away from her. But remember, once you are free from Mother, join Mara and stay with her. But you must stay in a way that no big order is broken. You know how dear you are to me and how much I love my darling sister. Be always thinking of me. Remember my wishes and big orders. M.S. Irani." But now the catch was how to get free of their mother. So Mani became a most horrible daughter. She was rude, disrespectful, and she felt so bad inside. She would go to her room or go someplace else and cry privately. What Baba did was he sent Behram back home to be with Shireen and to get married. And he also sent Charles. So Shireen had 2 sons and a daughter-in-law, but Mani went to Baba. When she went to Baba, the women were in Nasik, and her constant companionship with Mara began for the next 57 years. Mara trained her in Baba's ways. Mani was amazed at the absorption Mara had when she prepared a glass of water for him. From early on, Mani was to always be with Mara, record her every moment, play the sitar when she was bathing. They made skits for Baba. And Mara would do the costuming, and Mani would do the skits, the songs to entertain Baba so that he could relax from the work he was doing. She also picked up his gestures very easily, and they cared for the many animals. From December 8th, 1938 to December 1942, there were 6 Blue Bus tours. Mani kept a diary, which is used today for remembrance. In 1944, they actually began their stay at Merazad, and she was 25. Baba encouraged them to begin a garden, particularly Mara, and the other women helped. And they would climb up the hills and all around and gather stones. They used the stones to line the garden paths. But then Baba decided to build a bigger house, so they moved to Goher's family home in Ahmednagar. When they came back, they didn't see the stones, and they asked about it. And the workers had used those stones for the foundation of the house. Baba would read books and newspapers by himself, but then Mani began reading aloud to him, and she would use different voices for each of the characters. When she was 30, she was one of the 4 women to go on the New Life. After the New Life, the women went to the West. They stayed in the guest house at Meher Center. Baba then had his first accident in Oklahoma. She had whiplash, but wasn't injured as much as Baba and Mara. But she did something which carried on throughout her life, which was correspondence. She maintained a correspondence with the Burleson family. When Baba had his second accident in 1956 in Satara, Mani became Baba's scribe to the Western world with the family letters. And that's when the family letters began in 1956. In about 1959, they began going to Pune for the hot summers and began their Guru Prasad stays. At one point, Baba asked Mani to look after Mira if he dropped his body. But of course, they never thought that would occur. But after Baba dropped his body, she not only looked after Mira, she welcomed each and every Westerner to the last darshan and became the chairperson of the trust. Throughout the years, she gave 100% of herself to each of us who visited Mehrabad and Merazad. When she passed away, August 19th, 1996, blue smoke was seen from her cremation. Two sadhus walking down the road approached Eric. They said, "Whose pyre is this?" Instead of the black smoke of an ordinary person, it was the gray blue smoke of the pyre of a saint. So they came to ask about this great soul and pay their respects. The sister of Meher Baba? That explains it. And I'm going to end with just a few things others said about Mani. Julia Burleson said Mani was magical. Naju said she was the master of everything. Baba put into her a bit of all the talents of the world. She was loving, giving, forgiving, humorous, very understanding, a composer, a poet, and the greatest actress. Arnabas said, in the world, she would have been a genius. Baba said to Dr. Morty, who had a doctorate in philosophy, Deshmukh can put you in his pocket, but Mani can put you both in his pocket. Delia said Baba told them his own sister Mani was a genius and often kept him entertained with her dancing and sketches, which she composed herself. Baba said, "I'm always happy when Mani's reading to me because it makes me feel like I'm watching a play." Each of us was so fortunate to know her and to be with her. For those that didn't have that opportunity, many books are left. God Brother, Dreaming of the Beloved, the 82 Family Letters, and Heather's masterpiece, The Joyous Path. So today, let's share some wonderful tales and stories and memories. Thank you, Jai Baba.
My attachment with the Mani auntie and all Mandalis starts with my mother right as early as in 1951, but I don't want to, but I was become very close to the woman Mandali in 1982 onwards. So that time I was asked to spend monthly 3 days along with the Mandali because I was offered to stay as a Mandali member, provided I should not get married. So that was the condition. So I was asked to come to Mehrabad only during when not much pilgrims were there. So I have to spend 3 days in a month along with the Mandali. Especially I was so close to the women Mandali more than men Mandali. So money was offered to, as I stated you, that I was to be one of the family members of Merazad. But unfortunately, on 9th December 1987, because of the circumstances, I was forced to get engaged and I got married on 26th February 1988. So that's the reason. When I met her again, Mani auntie told me, Merchan, better like next birth. I said, Mani auntie, not next birth, next avtarik period. She laughed. And I'm just good. I don't want many incidents were there, but because of many speakers are there and whatever written in the books, I don't want to touch it. Only my personal things I want to state. And second thing is, after the marriage, myself and my wife went to the Merazad also. she presented my wife with a locket, and Meramai also presented a nice sari to her and all. And that's why we are happy. And by Baba's grace, I was working, I used to do all Baba's work. And the next instance was mine, very touching, art touching is this thing. It was 1989 when Meramai dropped her body. I was at Ingota for installation of Baba's statue. When we heard, we directly came to Mehrabad, and from on 22nd, we came 22nd May and went to the Mehrazad. Mani received us because Meramai used to love my mother a lot. So Mani embraced my mother and me and said, Mera is no more. And she was all the time on that day. She remembered you all. So I was very fortunate when I heard the words from Mani. And the next was when I went for Meramai's, every year I used to carry a lot of mangoes on Meramai's 20th May and Meramai's Punyatithi. I used to carry the mangoes, and because Meru used to like a lot mangoes. So that day what happened is she was just came for Baba's Aarti for Meramai's Tithi on 1996 May 20th. And all the people are given a caution not to embrace Mani auntie. So I was standing near in between the Samadhi and Baba's cabin room. So Mani was coming all the one, everyone, she was also shaved her hair also and all. She was wearing a turban-like thing on that. And she, the moment she was passing on, suddenly turned to me, and Apsi was there. He said, Merchant, please don't come nearer to my Mani auntie and don't embrace. I said, okay. And my friend was Chandrakant Kanigiri was also next to me. And the moment Mani was about to leave for this thing, she suddenly saw me. Hey, Merchant! And she came and embraced me by herself. Then Apsi told me, why are you embracing? I said, I'm not me. I always follow the instructions. That was the last embrace I had from the Mani auntie on 20th May 1996. Then when I was in Hyderabad, we received a telephone call from Jal Dastur that Mani has joined Baba. So we immediately rushed up on the night bus and reached for her last rites. And as stated by this thing, and normally the body will burn for 2 days, but was 72 hours. And that's what I recollect my memory. And thanks for the giving me opportunity. Avtar Meher Baba ki jai.
Hey Baba, I met Mani the day before the 69 Darshan started for the Myrtle Beach group. I was part of a small group, the Overflow group. And so they took our small group to Guru Prasad. So we had a chance to meet the Mandali, and the men went to the men Mandali side and the women went to the women Mandali side. So I met Erich and the other Mandali and had a wonderful visit with them. So this was a short visit to Guru Prasad in the afternoon before the darshan started the next day. And at the end of that meeting with the men Mandali, I walked out of Guru Prasad and walked into that long driveway that you see in the movies. And then we were waiting for the bus. And I was standing next to Andy Muir and a couple of other people. And I saw a woman walking towards us, a woman in a sari walking towards us. And I thought my vision was really attracted to this person because she just had such a sparkling personality and appearance. And Andy Muir, standing next to me, said, "That's Mani, Baba's sister." And then Mani came over to us and she embraced Andy, and Andy was just weeping profusely. And that started me weeping. And I looked again at Monty, and it was sort of like a movie scene where the focus goes soft around the edges, and all you see is the beautiful woman. And that was what I saw. And Monty embraced me, and in that embrace, I got a tremendous blast of Baba's love. And for me, that moment was my moment of real darshan from Baba in this lifetime. That was April 23rd, 1969. And so I thought initially that it was Mani that I was feeling this love from and to. And so like about probably 50 to 75% of the guys there at the darshan, I fell in love with Mani. But I realized quickly that it was Baba's love coming through Mani that was so powerful and attractive. But it knocked me out for a day or two. I was just really in a state of altered consciousness for that period of time at least. And it was a wonderful experience. And I had nice visits in India over the years, and always loved seeing Mani. Mani was such a wonderful, sparkling personality, and just what a person. So that's my particular Baba story. I don't know if you can see this or not. There's me with Mani at the darshan. So, Jai Baba.
Hi, well, I'm just trying, I mean, so many, I love talking about Mani. So many stories come to me, and I just always have to scramble to figure out which ones to share. But
you can share them all if you like.
I don't want to take up too much of your time, but I will share a couple. Maybe I'll jump in later if there's room. But I was there when Mani died, so there was, I just want to say just briefly, I actually did a whole write-up on my experience of being at the pyre, but I just want to say briefly about Karen, the blue smoke, because I was there, and the thing that I remember about that smoke, and I remember when the sadhus came because I saw them coming, and I remember them going up to Erich and talking to them, and then Erich told us what they had said, because Robert and I were standing nearby. And but the thing I remember, it was very windy, and the pyre was lit, and there was so much beauty, coming, the way, the images that stay in my mind are the way the smoke, that beautiful blue-gray smoke was dancing. It was like Mani's personality. It was like, there would be like these little vortexes, and it was swirling, and it was just like a fun, like a childlike play that the air was doing with the smoke. And I remember sitting on the hillside just above, but right near the pyre, and I was watching it burn, and the wind kept like gushing toward me. And you know how when smoke blows in your eyes, it can sting your eyes and it can be irritating? This smoke, what I remember about it, number one, it smelled beautiful. It had the smell of the roses and the jasmine that was all been put on her body. And it was just whipping around my face, and I felt like it was Mani caressing my face, and it never stung my eyes, and it just kept swirling all around me, and I can feel it even as I'm saying it right now. And it was the most beautiful. I didn't want to move from the spot because it was I was just breathing in the wafting. So, and then the other thing I'll share just briefly about the pyre, it did burn for 3 days, and there was people tending it day and night. And at the end, I remember we went there when it was sort of finally kind of simmering down, and they were going through the ashes, and there was beautiful, all around her heart cavity, there was roses that did not burn. There was but rosebuds that were whole. I have one, actually. I should go get it. And it was like a miracle, because the fire burned hot for 3 days, and there were like a whole bunch of beautiful little flowers that were singed, but they were still whole. And so that was such a, that was Mani. I mean, the essence of Mani was just there. She left all these beautiful roses, and so many of us took some. And then the other thing I will share just briefly is my first experience meeting Mani was when I was in 1986, my first time going to India. I was 24 years old and I was traveling there. I had never been there. I didn't know a lot of the rules about what you were supposed to do. And I was traveling with my boyfriend at the time. And we were so exhausted from the journey, we decided to stay an extra night in Pune, and we didn't inform them that we were not showing up the day we didn't know. We just thought, well, we'll just go tomorrow. That's okay. We're so tired. So we get there, being so ignorant as I was, we get there, and I remember pulling into the trust compound, and this woman comes running out of the trust compound. I recognized her as Mani because I had seen the pictures. And she comes running over, and she was just, she embraced me. She said, "I'm so happy to see you." And I thought, wow, what a beautiful welcome. And she said, "I'm Mani." And she said, "I'm so glad you're safe. I'm so happy you're here." And I thought, oh, I just felt so unbelievably welcomed by her. Then I found out that they were so anxious and nervous about what had happened to us and why we didn't show up, that that I had sort of not disappointed, but I sort of had done something wrong as soon as I had arrived. But and I remember apologizing to her and telling her I didn't understand, and she was very sweet about it. But she said, "Please know that when you come, we depend on you showing up when you say you're going to show up." But I always have sort of take that moment of the way she embraced me as a sort of an imprint of my short, brief, but incredibly deep connection with Mani, because then she died in 1996, so I saw her 2 more times after that. And I will show you, this is my favorite picture of me and Mani, and this was in 1994 when my daughter first met her, who's also named Mani. And she called my daughter, she said, "I'm Big Mani and she's Mini Mani." She called her Mini Mani and Mani with a dot because she has a little birthmark on her nose. So that was one of my favorite visits with Mani. Thank you.
This is delightful to remember Mani. As everyone's saying, she was one of a kind and such, so delightful on so many levels, as well as powerful as head of Mayor Baba Trust. But I have also many stories, but one comes to mind that for me personally encapsulates, it's a little vignette that encapsulates the spunk of Mani, the nature, the delightful energy and love of Mani. And Laurel Magrini, I'm glad that you're here because you have a starring role in this little vignette. And it took place just about a year before Mani dropped her body, in either July or August of 95. And in those days, pilgrims got to eat lunch at Merazad, and the days were longer than they became in the later years to be able to be at Merazad. So in the morning, Lorraine Brown, a wonderful singer and deep lover of Baba's from Australia that I know many of you know, had just arrived. And she, so a whole lot of folks had been on Mara's porch with Mani. I think it was a Saturday. At any rate, Mani had spent the morning on the porch, and Lorraine had brought as a gift for Mani a kite. And of course, even the cover of God Brother is Mani, who thought, of course, as a little girl, that she was in charge of the kite when it was Baba behind her that was actually pulling all the strings. How true that is for all of us in everything that happens. But at any rate, in the afternoon, after lunch, it happened, you know, Monty came back out on the porch, and there were 7 women, no men. There'd been plenty of men in the morning, but there were no men on the porch. It was just 7 of us women, and Lorraine was one of them. And obviously I was there. And Monty said, "Let's go fly the kite." And so everybody thought that was a delightful opportunity. So we all trailed Monty, and she'd already had some serious health issues previous to this. And anyway, we trailed after her to a vacant field in the outback of Marazad. And Monty immediately, you know, took the kite and started running with it, you know, to get it way up in the air. And someone else was holding the kite string. And she kept, you know, she was running full force. And about then, Laurel, who was assisting Monty, came out of Baba's house with a tray on which was a glass of water and Monty's heart medication in a little cup container. And so there's Laurel running after Monty, saying, "Monty, stop, wait, your heart medication, you need to take your heart medication." Of course, that didn't stop Monty. She went running till she got the kite up in the air, and there's dear Laurel kind of doing her job. But with Monty, it was the zest of life, the love of Baba, that energy that greeted Elisa when she arrived, that joy that I think each one of us that are here felt from her, that just exploded beautifully into whatever was happening, whether it was flying a kite or doing something deep, meaningful, or tiny for Baba. I'm thinking of the women of Khorshid and Mara making those little sandals, etc. So at any rate, that to me kind of encapsulates that joy and zest of life and love for Baba that seemed to exude out, in my experience of Monty, every moment. So Jai Meher Baba, it's that we could share that experience, be enveloped by his love flowing, as Chris so well said, his love flowing through Baba to all of us. How blessed we are.
Okay, so I'll tell about a different aspect of Mani. While I had been to India in the early 70s and once and in the early 80s, 3 times, I never had private time with Mani, ever. And then I came down with hepatitis and Mara's play, and I was gone for 5 years, and my marriage came apart, and I finally came back to India with Patrick, and I was expecting to get raked over the coals by my behavior, and I remember, you know, in those days you'd stand in line and you'd greet Aloba, and then you'd greet Rhoda, and then you'd greet Mani, and then you'd greet Erich, and she said, as I left the embrace, she said, "Wait for me, we need to talk." And I was waiting to be raked over the coals, which I felt I deserved and wanted. And so this was a Saturday, I guess, because Erich was in the hall, and I didn't know what to do because she said, "Wait for me." So I waited on the bench, and everybody filed into Mandalay Hall, and Erich started talking, and Mani was nowhere around. And how do I prepare myself for this? And I'd never had a one-on-one with Mani. And she never appeared. So I thought, oh, I guess I'll just go back into Mandalay Hall. So I went in, and eventually I got swept up into Erich's stories. And once I was completely involved, those double doors opened up, and I looked to my left, and Mani looked right at me and pointed her finger right at me, and she said, come. And I came out, and she took my hand, and she said, now, we need to find a private place to talk. Where should we go? And I said, well, you know, Mani, from hepatitis, my eyes are so sensitive to light. I need to be in a place where the light is behind me, which was a really weird thing to say, but I had to say it. And so she said, well, let's look. And she took my hand, and we walked past the blue bus. And then we walked to the New Life Caravan, and she said, would this do? And I said, oh, this is perfect. So we went into the New Life Caravan, and she sat down on where her bed would have been. And I sat down, I guess, where Mehru's bed would have been. And she took my hand, and then we started to talk. And it was incredible. And she just wanted to know what happened. And she listened, and I remember I started to cry. And at age 4 or 5, I had vowed that I was never going to cry in front of anybody, which I pretty much kept my vow until that moment. And there I was in the New Life Caravan. And I knew that I had about 2 minutes to tell my story to Mani when she said what happened. And she took out a handkerchief, and she was drying my tears. And then she said, at the end of this, she said, you know, communication is the most important thing in a relationship. And she had such love and such understanding and such incredible capacity to listen and to get it. And she was so present, and I was so present. It was just remarkable. And then for the next, so that must have been 89 or 90. And then every year after that, I came, she would pull me aside, and she would say, how's the relationship with Patrick going? Remember, communication is the most important thing. And in the last years, right before she died, when she was inside the house, you know, and wrapped up in those beautiful scarves. And I remember she called me twice, and she wanted to know how things were going. And she would look into my eyes deeply, and she would say, remember, communication is the most important thing. Jai Baba.
I'd like to share that in 78, I was part of a church called the Foundation Faith of God, and they used to make angel buttons. So I ordered a button machine and started making Baba buttons. And in my first trip to India, 79, I brought about 500 of these Baba buttons with a machine. And years later, I brought a different size machine. But it's just impossible for me to express how excited and how appreciative and how happy Mani was about these buttons. She was like a little girl in the toy factory during Christmas. And that enthusiasm she had kept me going for over 30 years. And there must have been at least 20 times that I sent buttons over there to her. And so our communication basically had to do with the buttons. But believe it or not, out of those 20 trips, not one of them had any problems getting to her. Anyway, I have a couple postcards I thought I'd show that Mani has sent me through the years. This is a little duck saying, how is my friend Al? And here's a picture of Merzad. And here's a little postcard with Baba's picture on top, as you can see. And then here's one that this is the kind I think she liked the most. These little humorous cards with Minnie Mouse. You know, on the back she says, Dear Al, you can see for yourself, I'm as pleased as can be to have your latest batch of Baba buttons. They are lovely as ever and doubly welcome because they come in perfect time as gifts for beloved's silver Amartithi. I'm already looking forward to the next batch from you. As you know, they are always very welcome. Jai Baba, lots of love from your Merzad family. And it just dawned on me that Baba's 100th birthday coincided with the silver Amartithi. But anyway, this was written in February 10th of 94, and it was brought back to me by my friend who was there. So I don't think I got this till after Baba's birthday. And I think I'd mentioned before, my brother passed away the day after Baba's 100th birthday. And I probably would not have written to Monty, but since her postcard came, I wrote to her and I let her know about my brother. And she wrote me this letter, of which I want to share a little bit of it with you. And this was August 18th of 94. She says, "Dear Al, I place your letter and all you poured out into it at beloved Baba's lap, on his chair in his room at Merazad. And I will also deliver a prayer on your behalf in the shape of a rose from Mara's garden at Baba Samadhi when next we go to Mehrabad. Try and keep happy. Remember that he loves you and is with you. Though you may feel in low moments that he has turned his face from you, that is never the case. Keep your gaze on Baba with full assurance of what he has told his lovers. I am with you always." And what about that precious bundle of buttons? They arrived just in time when I was almost out of my precious stock. Baba's perfect timing again. I end this with much love and good wishes from my heart, along with a size 3 meter J Baba from all of your Merazad family. P.S. Oh yes, if you have spare 100th birthday buttons, whatever size, with you, they can happily fly over here. I think I'd mentioned earlier that Monty must have had some premonition, but in 95, she requested 100 of these 1 little inch buttons, the same size I showed you. And she gave everyone who came to Merazad a little Christmas present, which is a little box. I think it was Rikla cough drops, but inside there was a little ribbon, a little Baba quote, a little Prasad candy, and one of these little 1 inch buttons. And luckily I was there in 96, January, February, March, a couple of months before she passed away. And I had the good fortune of being invited with Raphael to visit with Mani a couple of months before she passed away. And she told me this story, which I'm sure most of you know, that when she was a little girl, Baba promised her a bike. She says, "Now you promised now." He says, "I promised on the chicken." And she didn't get her bike, and then she started to like be a little aloof and started to ignore Baba. And Baba says, "What's the matter?" She says, "You promised me a bike and I never got it." He says, "What could I do? I promised on the chicken died." And to her, it made perfect sense. She let go of this resentment, and that was it. And then she says to me, "Al, you know, Baba promised me that bike. And now in my last days, here it is." She was riding one of those little carts that Dr. Goher used to ride in. And for her, that was the bike that Baba had promised her 70 years ago or so.
I was just saying to Glenn, never heard the story of the Mani said Baba did finally deliver that tricycle. It was in the form of Begum. That was the name of her little motorized cart. That is wonderful. I love hearing things. I had nothing specifically planned to tell. I just wanted to hear and see what I'd be prompted to remember to say about Monty. And Al, I think I was there when that delivery of buttons around Baba's 50th birthday, or maybe it was before Amriti. I was happened to be staying at Merazad, and I was helping Monty. And when that, and it must have been, it'll coincide. So that big package of buttons came. He was sitting in the house, you know, that sort of central hall where Goher's bed is. And there was a big comfy chair just to the side of the front door. That was Monty sat there. That was her chair. And we meaning the women, girls, whoever, were helping her. We'd get these little low stools and we'd sit on the floor there if we were doing correspondence with her, doing something like that. I was sitting there on one of these low wooden stools right in front of her, and the package of Baba buttons came, and all the women in Mandalay were there at that moment. And let me tell you, just free for all. They all want them. And Mani had set aside some Baba buttons that she particularly liked. But the hands were dying in from all the women Monday to get those Baba buttons. And I looked at her and she looked at me, and it was one of those moments where without a word, and one of those moments where I felt like I actually did it right, if you know what I mean. No words were spoken, just the exchange of glances, of looking at each other. And I kind of pushed aside the ones that she had selected for herself and kind of stuck them under the pillow or something, hid them so that those hands would not grab the buttons that you wanted. And I felt like that was the right thing to do at the moment. So funny. But I couldn't say it out loud. But just that exchange of eyes, and that happened a lot with her. And I have a feeling that happened a lot with Baba too. Obviously without saying a word because he's silent, but even with that gesture, he would give them a look, and they knew exactly what it, often, not always, but this is what we hear. I wasn't there. But actually, what I wanted to, the thing that I'm prompted to say is inspired by Elisa, and I would never have to say it, but her talking about Mani, let's say you, and about being there when Mani died and being there at the funeral pyre, just reminded me of two special things about the Drace family. One is that in the year before Mani died, she was for a long time, started feeling bad. About a year and a few months before she died, she just didn't feel well. She went through various operations, and she just, one day she said, I just wish I could feel normal again. She just never felt well, and of course, it escalated from there. And she received a letter from Elisa one day that said that Elisa had a dream, and a dream of Mara. Now, she may want to pipe in here because I might get the wording exactly right, but the dream was that she saw Mara and said something like, Elisa, you're going to have to get the details right, but are you with Mani? Is me with you? And Mary said, oh yes, I'm with Mani all the time. Well, Mani loved so much that she had that excerpt from the letter written out, and she had it put on one of her steel cupboards in her room, where it is still there to this very day. Okay, that's goosebump number one. Did I get it right, Alita?
Yeah, I mean, finish your stories. I'll give you. You did get it right, and that was there's a really
okay
thing there. Yeah.
And the other story was that, and I would have never thought to share it, but just because I saw your face and talking about it, when Mom was ill, I was there, and I was one of the small group of women who were there to help out. And what we would do was take turns in her room. She was in bed, and somebody would always be in the room with her. And she was sleeping in the bed. And I was sitting in the chair in the room, and all of a sudden, she woke up, and she said, just in a sort of dreamy, she seemed very comfortable, very happy, which actually at this time of her life was in a lot of pain. She was not comfortable. For some reason, she woke up from her little nap there, and she was just in this dreamy state. And she said, oh, it was so lovely when we would go to films with Baba, and we'd see Bob Hope. And she'd go, oh, it was so lovely and wonderful. And then she sighed and looked off and said, Bob Dreyfus. Bob Dreyfus. And she went back to sleep. So I told Robert about that, and he was just like, and I felt like this was, she just was remembering all her dear ones somehow or another. And that's all I can say. Yeah. And he was very, very touched that somehow that she thought of him. And it was really a very true moment.
Anyway, so I had always wanted to live there, and then Mani had told me when I first went that first trip, I asked Mani about living there, and she said, well, you know, she was so sweet. She said, well, you know, see what, you know, Baba, I would think you should go back and finish your schooling, because I was almost done with my schooling, and then you can, you know, see what Baba has in store. So then, of course, as soon as I went back, I met Robert, and then it was clear that I wasn't living in India. I was getting married and going back into the world and all that. So that was always a sort of a pain for me, that I wanted to do, you know, I wanted to serve the women, and I wanted to be there with the Mandali and be with Baba, and I didn't, that wasn't my destiny. So then fast forward to Mani's you know, getting her downturn and like the last year or two, and I would just pray to Baba, you know, please Baba, let me do something for Mani, you know, please let me be able to serve Mani in some way, and you know, it just didn't look like it was going to be possible. And then she was going, you know, down really quickly. And then I had this series of dreams, of very powerful Baba dreams. And then I had this dream at the end of like 3 powerful Baba dreams, of a dream of Mera. And so I had the habit of writing my Baba dreams to Mani, and she would always respond. So I was writing these dreams, and they were long, and I had the thing in my head of Katie Irani had said, the Mandali are getting so old, please keep your letters brief, we don't have time anymore, you know, blah, blah, blah. So I was writing and writing and writing, and then at the last minute, I thought, I'm not gonna put that Mera dream in because it's too much, the letter's too long. So then suddenly I just had this strong intuition, and the dream was, I'll just tell you the dream. I was walking in a park with my children, and I saw Mera walking toward me. And I just was like, oh, Mera, and I ran, and I realized that nobody could see her. I could only see her. And so I ran up to her, and I said, Mera, my kids were playing on the swings, and I said, Mera, you know, so wonderful to see you. And then, you know, my kids came over, and she said, I said, my kids said hello to her, and I said, my kids can see you, Mera. And she said, of course, the children can always see me. And then we were walking hand in hand, and I said something, she was talking about Mani, and she kept saying Mani this and Mani that. And I said, oh, I said, do you see Mani? And she said, she looked at me and she said, of course I see Mani. She said, Mani and I are always together. So I thought, just as I was closing this letter, I thought, I have to include this dream because it was really important. So I added it on, and I said, I'm so sorry this is so long. Well, that dream, like as Laurel said, turned out to be the gift Baba gave me to give something to Mani, because that dream gave her so much comfort throughout her passing, and that so much that she had it written out. And Devana and Shelley and Heather would tell me all the time that Mani would ask them to read that dream to her again and again. And so it was such a special thing for me to have been the recipient of that dream. So that's the backstory of the dream, and I felt like it was that's what Baba gave me as what I could give to Mani. So that's what I would share about that. Thank you for bringing that up, Laurel.
I realized Chris told his story about Mani in tears. I went to Merazad, I guess it was probably right after Christmas in '95. And actually, hey, I don't know, let's see, speaker view. Let's see, can you see this picture?
You have to hold it up a bit more. There it is.
Yes. I don't see myself at all, so on my screen.
We can see you.
So anyway, there's Mani. But I was sitting next to her, and I kept feeling these tears welling up. It was on the porch, and I go in to take darshan. I go to Baba's room, and it was a floodgate. It was completely, I completely lost it. And so the next day, Casey said, all the women, they want to know what happened, which I have no idea what happened. Baba said he was melting. Mani said, Baba's melting you. And it was just, she was very sweet, and what a dynamic, amazing. And I can't, everybody has so many more stories, but, and then Dr. Gohair, when we went together in '97, gave me this wonderful scarf. And I think that this picture that Elisa has, she's wearing it. So anyway, yeah. And Mani said to me, I sang Amazing Grace for them after Janet Judson said, oh, you have to sing Amazing Grace for Mani. And she told me that when I sing, remember, you sing for Baba. And that gave me so much more confidence in my music. And what a dynamic, beautiful. I draw a line in the sand. Life before and after Baba. Jai Baba. And Marvin has better stories.
My story is, I came in '90, and I didn't know who Mani was. I didn't know who Meru was, or any of the Mandalay, really. I was just drawn to Baba's photograph, and decided I would go to India and find out who he was. And so I was wandering around in the old Pilgrim Center, and went into town and wandered around there, and then I walked back to the Samadhi and walked into the Samadhi. And who met me was Nanakar. And Nanakar looks at me and he says, excuse me, he saw me sitting there, and he says, excuse me, I have to go do something. Could you be a watchman for the tomb? Just a few minutes. And I said, sure, I can do it. What do I have to do? And he says, well, nobody was going to come, but if somebody does come, you offer them prasad, and then they go on their way. And I said, oh, that sounds simple. Okay, I'll do it for you. So he left, and there was nobody there, no one. It was totally desolate. And I'm standing there, and 2 seconds later, the blue car pulls up with all 5 women, and they all pile out and walk into the Samadhi, and bow down, and I'm standing there going, okay, what am I supposed to? 2 or 3? Do I give them 2 pieces of prasad or 3? If I give them 2, they might think I'm being stingy. So they all come out and they're standing in line waiting for the prasad. And I'm fiddling around and I grab 3 of them and I put it in Mani's hand and I give her a big hug and I say, "Welcome home." And she dies laughing. She turns around, she says, "Did you hear that? Welcome home." And anyhow, that's how I met Mani and Meru and Dr. Goher and all the women. And they all piled back into the car and drove off. Jai Baba.
When I arrived in the trust office on my first visit, I had seen Adi, who I'd met in the States. And then a lady came to me like this and said, "Oh, I remember you." And I had this moment of fright, like I didn't know who she was. And I pulled back, yeah. And so that was our first meeting. It wasn't very generous on my end. And of course, being around the ladies and longing to be there with everyone and be part of that life. Right after Mara, I went to Baba. You know, I'd had some 3 months, 4 month stays like that, but when Mara, I'd never stayed. My first day, it was just 4 months. And so after the Mara went to Baba, I asked Mani, "May I stay?" And she said, "Try it for 6 months. Let's see." And my fate was to marry, and that is what ended up happening. But Baba's gave me during that 6 months the opportunity to be of service here and there. And one day Mani said, "Now tomorrow you come and I'm going to give you some socks to darn." So I went to the porch and I waited quietly and waited and stories were told and the bell rang and I sat there a little longer and no socks. So I didn't know what to do. So I went out and I ate, and there were Rustum and Saurabh, my old pals. And it had been kind of tense and waiting, and it was late in the trip and I was kind of exhausted, and there were Rustum and Saurabh, and they started joking with me, and I was so happy, so relaxed, laughing. And there, around the corner comes Mani, and she sees me in this state of delight and hilarity, and she was not happy. She said, "Come with me." And as I started toward her, she said, "Anything you say you do, you will do. Whatever it is, big or small, it doesn't matter. If you're not going to do it, you say you're not going to do it." Oh, I thought, well, I've been waiting all morning for the socks. I didn't mean not to do it. So I followed her out and she gave me the socks. And I sat on the porch and I just felt, oh, so she didn't see me at all. I had been waiting and there I was with tears going down my cheeks, you know, darning the socks. I'm going to darn these socks better than they've ever been darned before. And I gave Mani the socks, and Mani said, "Come with me." So I start walking with her. Behind us are Rustum and Saurabh. And Mani said, "Now I'm going to get you into shape." And I look behind me, and Rustum and Saurabh are making all these faces, and I really didn't know what to do. It was sort of like, oh, you know, between two worlds. And next thing I know, I'm sitting in Mandali Hall. And as I told you, I pulled back from Mani when I first met her. And Mani told the story of the new life and how one line I remember, she was telling stories from the new life. She said about the freedom of it, it was like looking over the edge of a boat into the bottomless ocean. And the whole time she was telling those stories and she told that little vignette, she's looking in my eyes. So after that, before my 6 months were over, I started following Mani around everywhere she went. I was like a little puppy who had received all this love from her. And that love, and of course, it's not that the gifts from Baba and Mara and Mani stop. They keep coming. I feel that. And even in all these shares, it's like being to be with them. I'm so grateful for everyone telling their stories, and that's my little story. Jai Baba.
She was just total energy for Baba, his love and enthusiasm for Baba, and she was just an unending burst of energy. I really admired her, and I couldn't imagine being like that, as I could barely talk at the time. I was so painfully shy. And I just would look at her in awe. I was like, wow, look at this woman. She's unbelievable. And I loved her so much. I didn't have that many moments with her, but I did have a few. And I don't even remember the year, guys, this picture was taken, but very sweet. And someone here said that Mani was like magic. Well, I can tell you that I could be feeling one way with her. And then I remember, I don't know where the picture is to show you, but she'd be sitting there with her arm around me. And then someone took a picture, and then we're gazing into each other's eyes, and then we both look at it at the same time, and someone took a picture. It was like, oh my gosh, I was transformed just, being close to her and looking into her eyes. Now here's another one that I think you would love. Look at this. Awesome. She's so light. So one time when I was here in Myrtle Beach, I was visiting Jane Haynes, and she said she was going to take me to Baba's house. Together we would go. And I was late to get to her house. I had been staying at the Meher Center. And I think she was a little annoyed I was late. So she's sitting at her desk and she's typing, and kind of just continued typing as I entered. And so I was waiting, and I'm looking around at her studio. Is magnificent. And I see this picture on her dresser. And I said, what's this? And it was a picture of a tree that had a garland around it. Oh, don't you know? I said, no. She said, well, that's the tree where Mani had her vision of Baba, Baba's and Mara's vision tree, I think. I forget what she called it exactly. But I said, I'll take a picture. So here I had my father's old camera, which I don't have anymore, and I take a picture. And when I had it developed, it was so funny because I'll show you. First of all, the very top part, you could see that Jane is endearingly looking at Wendy when she's a little girl. And then on the bottom, you'll see, on the bottom here is the picture of the tree where you could see Baba's face appeared and the garland. I told Jane, and I believe we spoke about it, and she said, I'd take it to India. But when I went to India, Mani said she had never seen it. So I showed it to her, and she said something like, oh, this tickles me. So there's this poem that she wrote. It's called I Sought It. And I would like to read it to you. And it says, I sought it in the babbling song of streams. I sought it in the fantasy of dreams. Disillusioned, I forsook, seeking it in books. I could not hear it sung in the wisdom of the tongue. In the silence of the hills I rushed to find. There could not still the clamor in my mind. Weary with defeat, I dropped down at his feet. O heart, rejoice. I found it in the silence of his voice.
It's very nice to remember Mani. And of course, she's always in our heart. And whenever we think of Baba and whenever we see Baba's image, always Sister Mani and Arach, they are there. And out of entire Mandali, she was the only Mandali member whose presence brought me tears in my. Whenever I used to meet her at Mehrabad, always, of course, when I met Baba also. And Baba's presence was so intense that you start crying, tears. But Sister Mani has that very strong love she could transmit. And I always miss her. And one day, she was sitting inside the tomb. And I was there singing a ghazal. And she had that tears in her eyes. And then later on, she dropped me a card. Vijay, thank you for the ghazal. The meaning of this ghazal, from this ghazal was sang to Baba in 1st May 1963 before Baba. So I repeated that ghazal, and the meaning is, beloved, from your eyes, I have drank such a wine that I lost my memory, everything I lost. I am lost in you. So that was the few memories with Sister Mani. And she was a wonderful administrator. She was chairman of the trust. And she used to look into all details. And she has such a nice control over all Baba lovers. She wanted to know each and everything about their families, how they are doing. And once it so happened that, whenever we leave Maharajah, we hug all the Mandali and members. So some 2-3 times it happened, I didn't go to her. And then she tells my wife, oh, send him, why he is not coming to me? So such a detail she could remember, and she was such concerned about each Baba lovers. That much I will say. Thank you. Jai Baba.
I mean, I used to go see her, during the visits. I used to be in US. One thing I certainly remember is she always used to inquire about, well-being. And the last thing I remember is, this was in 95. She said, I don't know, I'm getting very old. We all are getting very old. I don't know how long I'm going to, live, but you should come and visit us every year. But unfortunately or fortunately, she went to Baba, after that. Yes. And yes. I didn't have a chance. That was the last time. It was in 95, December or January time frame. Yeah.
Our family went to India and spent 6 weeks. David with 3 of our children. It was a very special time. Our youngest, Shireen, was 7. Mani was wonderful with the kids. Of course, they loved her. But the thing that sticks in my mind is the day came to leave, and the taxi was there when we were at Mehrabad just for one final, goodbye and embrace. And as we were going, I thought everybody was sitting in Mandali Hall. Somebody was talking. Maybe it was Mani or Erich. I don't know. So I thought, oh, we'll just peek in the door and wave. And Mani, when she saw us, she turned around. She said, "Oh!" She got up And everybody got up. The whole Mandalay Hall emptied out. Bal Natu, I have a wonderful picture of Bal with a scarf on his head. They all came out. They all came out to say goodbye to us. It was so special. And thanks to Mani, who just had that inspiration to come and say goodbye. It was lovely. It was a lovely goodbye.
A few reactions. Marvin, you're still there. Observed Mani do this, and so many other people. Every so often, somebody would come visit at Merzad who didn't know who was who and type of thing, and come up to Mani. Oh, what's your name? And she would say, Rachel. Just always Rachel was her. I just thought it was wonderful. And she'd just play it along for a while, and then somehow or another she fess up that she was really Mani. It wasn't Rachel. And once I was in the, if anybody's been to Christian bookstore in Ahmednagar on Station Road, every so often as a little out from the trust office, I used to work in the trust office, and Mani would take occasionally little outings. She'd go to Bazaar, to Sardis, and every so often she'd go to the Christian bookstore. And so this time I got to accompany her. We'd get in a rickshaw, go to the Christian bookstore, and she'd look around, buy books and cards and things like that. Very nice, lovely man who ran the place. And one day she had paid for her books. We were about to leave, but we were still in the store, and in came Bill Peggy Stevens, featuring a different story. And it was very cute what she did. She just kind of looked at me and gave a little, and they didn't notice her at all. They certainly didn't notice me. And she just walked out. And I loved that. It was just kind of a little freedom not to have to greet every single time with that little wink. Just cute. Very, very cute. And Jay, I found that so interesting that she loved that particular couple lines from the Ghazal or the song that you sang about intoxication, because Mani would often say, talking in the hall, about how in the Ghazals people ask for intoxication, but we just want to be in the tavern just to sweep the floors or do anything to be near the Saki or Baba, the tab keeper. And she'd always say that. And yet, I have to say that I observed many times, and every time, if I happened to be there and when the women were singing the Gujarati Arti, there's one of the stanzas in the Gujarati Arti is Kudana Premano Pyalo Pilavi Mastamanekar, very off key, sorry about that. And what that means is, Kudana, God, give me, I don't really know the word, but the gist of it is, give us the wine of love to drink so that we become intoxicated. Must, like a must, Hamanekar, become intoxicated. And every time she sang that, she would bow her head at that particular stanza. Just some observation that I wanted to share, because she was so touched by Vijay singing that particular few lines from the ghazal. That's all, Baba.
Oh, I love to sing that for you and remember Sister Mani once again. Like just
Thank you,
imagining
yes.
she's sitting inside the tomb and I'm singing. So, and this ghazal was also sung in 1963 before Baba. तेरी नजर से कुछ ऐसी शराब पी मैंने कि फिर न होश का दावा किया कभी मैंने तेरी नजर से कुछ ऐसी शराब पी मैंने तेरे बगैर ना सिजदा किया कभी मैंने तेरे बगैर ना सिजदा किया कभी मैंने तेरे बगैर ना सिजदा किया कभी मैंने बिठा के दिल में तुझे बंदगी की मैंने के फिर ना होश का दावा किया कभी मैंने तेरी नजर से कुछ ऐसी फना को अब मेरी हस्ती से वास्ता न रहा फना को अब मेरी हस्ती से वास्ता न रहा बना लिया है मोहब्बत तो जिंदगी मैंने कि फिर ना होश का दावा किया कभी मैंने तुम्हारी नीम निगाहों में न जाने क्या था तुम्हारी नीम निगाहों में न जाने क्या था शराब सामने आई तो फेंक दी मैंने के फिर ना होश का दावा किया कभी मैंने है तलख मौत से भी जाएगा मोहब्बत का है तलख मौत से भी जाएगा मोहब्बत का किसी ने पी नहीं ऐसी शराब पी मैंने के फिर ना होश का दावा किया कभी मैंने फिशुरदा हो के तेरी बज़्म से उठा शेरी फिशुरदा हो के तेरी बज़्म से उठा शेरी जहाँ उठा ए बहुत लुत्फ़ ज़िंदगी मैंने के फिर ना होश का दावा किया कभी मैंने तेरी नजर से कुछ ऐसी शराब पी मैंने अवतार मेहर बाबा की जय Thank you.
I have a different kind of story. It's about the ending of Mani's presence here on earth. And I'm going to get very emotional. This was August of 1996. And I was in Bar Harbor, Maine with my then fiance, now husband, and my ex-husband and 2 children, and Marilyn was there too. We're in India. And my ex-husband, Eric, would call home. He would call his mother to let her know how he was and how the children were. And I would call her every few days to see how everything was. And this was August, right before Mani passed. And I was feeling very strange that day. And just like something wasn't right. And I knew that Mani was ill, but I wasn't necessarily associating it with Mani. But it just, something didn't feel right. And we were wandering around town, going in and out of places. And we went into this bookstore. And I went right to the spiritual section, wanting to see if there were anything about Baba there. I just grabbed the first thing that I saw. I didn't even see what book it was. And I grabbed the first book, and it happened to be God Brother. And I looked and looked to see if there was anything else by Baba or about Baba there, and there wasn't. Just God Brother, and it was in my hand. And I didn't think too much of it, and I put the book back. And we went back to where we were staying, and I decided I was going to call Eric's mom to see what was going on. And when I did, I got the news that Mani had passed. And when I did the calculation of time, it was right around the time that I was in that bookstore. And I just felt like it was a little visit from Mani, who I hadn't seen for years and years. And that was just my story. That's pretty much the end of the story. Thank you for listening, everybody. Avatar Meher Baba Ki Jai.
It's been so wonderful listening to all your lovely stories. I'm so touched by the love that all you Westerners, you know, we and that go date back to when we were young children and met Baba. We are so fortunate in that. But so many of you have not even had that opportunity to see Baba physically, and yet your love for him is absolutely spectacular. I bow down to that, first of all. It really, so many of your stories have really touched my heart. So, Jai Baba to that. Anyway, well, as some of you may know, I am going to speak next week and share my story about my dad and about my coming to Baba with you, but I couldn't resist this, and this part, of course, will also be shared next week with you. But my little money story takes me back to 1962, when I first met Baba for the first time and met him as a very young child. I was not even 8 years old at the time. So this was the East-West Gathering Sabas in Pune. And the very first day when we met Baba and we were with him that for that savas, all of a sudden the skies open up and it's torrential rain. And we in our Karachi group was right towards the forefront of the ladies section, very close to where all the Westerners were. And as a result, because of the shamiana not being waterproof, we all were drenched to the bone. And so Baba was feeling very, I guess, concerned about all the Westerners, and he wanted them to be brought inside the ladies. I didn't want them to catch a chill, not being used to this weather. And along with some of the Western ladies, we were also ushered in, some of us from the Karachi group. So here I was inside Guru Prasad in the ladies' quarters. And everybody was scrambling around trying to find clothes for, for all the ladies to change from their wet garments. And here I was, this little child, and, soaking wet. And somebody all of a sudden had this dress, and they were taking off my clothes quickly and putting on this other dress. And it was, I remember I was not even 3 feet tall at the time. It was, so this dress, which belonged to money, was put on me, and it was long, I mean, really long. So because I was so short. So then somebody had the idea of getting a ribbon, and they tied that ribbon around pulled it up, scrunched it up and tied the ribbon. And there I was, very comfortable in Mani's dress, feeling very snug and warm. And I just so distinctly remember that. Anyway, the savas was over. We get back to Karachi, and a few weeks went by, and lo and behold, a parcel comes in the mail with Mani's beautiful handwriting to Baba's sweet little Gohar. And would you believe, in that parcel was the very same dress that Mani had given to me to wear in Guru Prasad. And she sent it to me as a keepsake. And of course, to this day, I own that, I have that treasured possession in my Baba treasures. So that is my little story. I'll be sharing a lot more with you next week, but I don't want to take up too much time. So Jai Baba.
Yeah, I have Mani stories, but I think I'll tell one about my children. This is a picture that hangs on my wall at all times. Now there's glass. I hope it's not too. It's a picture we've all seen. It's where Mani is playing, she's showing a toy to a child. When I first brought my children to Mehrabad in '74, I think, my oldest 2 boys, it was my second trip back to India. And I had met Mani, of course, when I met all the women in '69 at the Darshan in Guru Prasad. And when I came back in '74 with my 2 boys, Mani was like this miracle with children. Whenever in '74, there weren't too many pilgrims there at that time. And these kids had no one to play with except, of course, Jamshed and Merwan Irani, who were living, and we were staying in, Villa Villa. And so when we went to Merazad, they had no one to play with. They just, there was hardly anyone around, except, of course, Mani. And the way she was with them, I just remember watching her, the way she looked at the children, and she would bring out her collection of little precious toys, and she would wind them up. She loved the wind-ups. Oh, meow! I love cats too, by the way. Anyway, so she had these wind-up toys for my kids, and she would, and if they particularly liked them, she gave them, at least for the time they were, and I think they managed to come home with one of them, but unfortunately I haven't been able to keep it. That was so many years ago. Those boys are now in their 40s. Anyway, the sweetness of Mani, the innate childlikeness, not childish, but childlike, and the purity that she had was so astonishing to me. And she was better with my children than I was. But of course, mothers don't have all the patience that she had. But anyway, I have these wonderful photographs of my kids with Mani and with Mara. And I've been going over my photos lately, trying to put them in order, which is a huge job. And I remember that at the time, I took home this extraordinary photo of my kids, my two boys, each one on each side of Mani, and she's reading from a book. She's reading to them. And I took that photo. And I thought, you know, no one will ever appreciate this photo but me. But as it turned out, in the years that we were building the Pilgrim Center and dealing with Lynn Ott, who painted all those wonderful paintings, he took that photo, and there's that painting on the men's side of Mani reading to two boys, and that's my two boys from that photo. And so Baba gave me my wish that others could share that photo in a way, that moment of my kids with Mani. And so that's what Baba did for me because I thought no one will ever see this picture but me. So that's how sweet the whole thing can be, and how attentive Baba is to every detail. There is nothing that he doesn't know about that's going on with you and you and you and you and you and you and you. And it just, anyway, that's what Mani did for me and Baba. Jai Baba. Ishtiyake shoka jabada se siva ho jayega. Ishtiyake shoka jabada se siva ho jayega. Samane akon ke wojal vanuma ho jayega. Samane akon ke wojal vanuma ho jayega. Kya kahun ai dil kudi ko, kara tu kya ho jayega. Kya kahun ai dil kudi ko, kara tu kya ho jayega. Mai tera ho jaunga jab tu mera ho jayega. Mai tera ho jaunga jab tu mera ho jayega. Ishtiyake shoka jabada se siva ho jayega. Samane akon ke wojal vanuma ho jayega. Jai Baba.
First, as I'm listening to all the wonderful recalls and sharings, I used to feel one of my favorite books are Mara Meher, because it's just such an intimate story and tells so much about Mani. I felt that it showed the greatness of Baba's Advent, because I think this Advent, because it's so great that he took on even more suffering than usual. And Mani, to have her for a sister that could entertain him under all this suffering, it shows the force of the Advent to me, you know, without doubt, that she was so key in the Advent. Well, I wanted to say my favorite was Mara, being around Mara. And one time, Mani took me aside and said, Rosalie, can't you look away from Mara once in a while? Can't you look away? And I was just shocked, her saying that, and I thought, I just knew, don't get into anything with Mani, you know. So I didn't say a word. I went mum. And I thought about it afterwards, because she was she was so astute with every person. She could give this incredible reading of a person's kind of soul. And, you know, for me, it was a gift, because after the shock wore off, but it was like, it showed me really my love for Baba, because of any of the Mandali, including Mani for me. Mara was almost not there. She was so much with Baba. So it was a gift, you know, and I didn't look away, because I knew Mara felt comfortable around me, and she would have told me to look away. So I thought, I better hear it from the horse's mouth. You know? So there was that. And then one other time that I thought, Mani, she just could read things. It was probably my worst day at Marazad. And I've been crying and crying in Baba's room. And then I skirted Marazad and got on their funky bus where you could get on. And there was not two doors, you know. Anyway, you were on the bus, and I had this kind of, I think it was like one of those cremation scarves. It was brown, and I had it over me. And Mani came up to the bus, like they used to say goodbye. And I was like, you know, I was out of it, and she went, who's that? Who's that shrouded there? Who's shrouded? Sitting on the bus shrouded. And, you know, Mani's like undeniable. So I turned towards her, and she says, oh, come on now, Rosalie, give me that big watermelon smile. And with her beautiful face beaming, and then I burst out crying. And it was such a precious gift, because I felt my aloneness in being on earth, just totally alone, like I was in a big marble hall, and I could hear Mani's voice so amazingly say, in such a way, that perfect way, she says, but Rosalie, he loves you. What more do you want? So that was very much a gift, because I think of that at any low point, because I thought, what more could I want? You know, it's like, it's shocking, you know. Anyway, I'm grateful, you know, to meet God's sister, and she was truly God's sister and totally delightful. She did take me to the toy cabinet one time. When she'd get down, and we all got down with the little mechanical toys, which I love, you know. So anyway, thank you for all your stories, on and on and on. And she was blue-gray smoke. It must have been heavy on the blue. Yeah, Jai Baba. Jai Baba.
One of my first trips to India in the 1970s, Mani saw me, I stand 6'4", And she was about to embrace me. She says, wait 1 minute. Let's pull the bench over. She pulled the bench over and then stood on the bench and said, now, come on. She opened her arms up. She gave me a big hug. And she says, now we're equal size. And so, Mani just captivated my heart with her sweetness and sense of humor and intelligence. And so it was truly a special moment.
Right. Well, I have a couple stories. In 1977, I was going to go to Kashmir for a short stint and then come back to Mehrabad. And I told Mani and Erich about it. And they thought it was fantastic because Baba had spent a lot of time in Kashmir and Chanji had died there, as we know. And furthermore, there had just come out a big article in what was like their Life magazine, if people could remember Life magazine, of Christ's tomb in Harban, apparently Christ's tomb. So that got us up, and Mani and Erich talked about that for quite a while. I spent about 2 weeks preparing this trip with them, and they told me all the things they knew about the tomb. So when I was going to come back, they told me to report back. So here's one of the things that happened. I got to Srinagar, which is the capital of Kashmir, and I was assigned a tour guide, a Muslim tour guide. He was a young guy, younger than I was, maybe 22. Ultimately, he wanted to live with me, but that was another story. Just wanted to get to the U.S. But one of the first things he said was, Christ was buried here. And I said, yes, I know. And he was stunned because he didn't imagine any Westerner could possibly know this. So when I told Mani and Erich this later on the way back, when I came back to Mehrabad, they thought that was pretty fantastic, how shocked the guy was. There's a lot more stories there, but that's the main gist of that Kashmir story. The last time I saw Mani, I had gotten married to Karen and raised 3 kids, so we couldn't come that easily. I took my son, Matthew, in '88, and then the family in 1992. And that was the last time I saw Mani. So when I was saying goodbye to her, and I'd spent quite a lot of time with her over the years in the 70s, it was kind of where the New Life Caravan is. And she had a look in her eyes that was so beautiful and so full of love. It overwhelmed me. And I thought to myself, I cannot imagine how much love Baba must have if a mere human being, Mani Irani, his sister, could have this much love. It seemed unimaginable. The love just poured out. And I could see it as I'm telling this story. It was very touching. And I think she gave me everything she had at that moment. Maybe she sensed with the 3 kids and the wife and working 70-hour weeks, I wasn't coming back too soon. And it's true, I didn't see her again in this lifetime at least. And hopefully I'll get her in her last lifetime. But anyway, that's because the time is late. I want to just say that's all I have for the moment.
Well, these other stories are just so significant and beautiful. And I do have a couple of little ones with Mani. When I first came, I remember she was working as chairman of the trust, and I saw her in the office, and she was just in her, I guess she was in her late 70s or something like that. And my grandmother was like the same age. And so I saw her running around and being in charge of this and going here and going there. And I just thought, my God, my grandmother could never do something like that. And imagine at her age what she's doing, just this little thought in my head. And then, a few days later, we were at Mehrabad, and there's a group of people she's talking to in the garden just a little distance from me. And I'm not in that group, but I can hear them speaking. And somebody says to her, like, so how's it going at the trust? And she says, it's very busy. We're very, very, very busy, working all the time. And then she shoots me a glance and she goes, imagine at my age. So it's like, oh my God, who is this woman? I never doubted, never doubted her ever anyways, but that was definitely, she knew what was going on. So, many beautiful times. My favorite times with her when she was with Erich telling stories in the hall, and they'd trade off back and forth with such grace, and it was so entertaining and very enlightening and heart-opening. And I guess I'll tell this last little story, which is that when I left, I say one more thing. So I had this accident when I was 1995, and she had her illness was right around the same time. And yet she sent me these little cards, one of them, I don't have it's almost in my exactly, but it was one of the things she said other times, but she said, keep your face turned towards the sun and all the shadows will fall behind you. And that was, and with her she took the time with the pictures and the handwriting as she was. So it just, I treasure those, of course. And last was that I think it might have been the last time I saw her in the physical body. I was getting on the bus and speaking to, I don't remember who it was, some old-time Baba lover. I don't remember who it was. And he said, so you said goodbye to Mani? And he was kind of curious, like what happened in that meeting? And so I said, well, nothing much. I said, something to her about what an honor it is to be with the Mandali, such, amazing souls. And she said to me, well, we're all in the same boat. And he said, oh, that's very good, Gabriella, very, very good. I said, what do you mean? And he goes, because she's going to be a perfect master in her next life. You want to be in her boat. She's indicating. And I was like, okay, yes, I am very available. It was a happy moment. So that's it.
I've shared this story before to people, but Mani, to me, it was just a magic thing that happened because I was in Marazad in 1981 and we were in Mandali Hall, and she just asked me who was my link to Baba, which I hadn't heard anybody ask that before then. And when she said it, I kind of thought, well, I don't know if I have a link, because I was still resisting totally believing in Baba at that point. I said, I guess if I have a link, it was my friend Jean. And then all of a sudden I had an experience in the present moment of a phone call I had had with my mother in probably 1969. My mother was an atheist. She didn't believe or wasn't looking for any kind of beliefs at all. And I just remembered the whole little conversation on the phone exactly. And I had not remembered it. I knew she mentioned Baba to me when I saw Baba's picture in Be Here Now. And after that, I remembered that she mentioned him, but I didn't remember one word of the conversation, and it meant nothing to me at the time. And all of a sudden, it's like I'm standing there having this total experience of the phone call. And my mother had said to me, Robin, when all these kids are coming back from India and places like that, believing in all these false gurus, but this Meher Baba, he's the one, you'll see. And she said it twice with total conviction. And I said, Ma, I could see me saying something like that to you, but I know you would never believe in such a thing. What in the hell are you talking about? And she said, I know, but you'll see, he's the one. So I had not remembered that at all until Mani asked me who was my link to Baba. And then I came back to Mandali Hall and I said, oh my God, Mani, my mother is like the last person in the world that would be a link for me to anything like this. But, and then I told her what my mother said and all, and she, oh, that's nice, darling. And then when I saw her before I left, which was the last time I saw her, she said, now you say hello to my sister for me. And I said, what? And she said, your mother. And when I got home, I asked my mother, I told her, now I remember it forever, and told her you know, what the conversation was. I said, do you remember that? And she said, well, yeah, I guess I do. I don't know. She didn't know how she got it. And then that was 81 and 88. She came to Baba at the center, and she could never figure out how she came to say that to me in like 1969. And it's always just endeared me so much to Mani. I mean, I want to know, the books about her are so fantastic. She is so amazing, beyond anybody I've ever known. And so she's just feels like a big part of me and a big part of my story, which I didn't even think was a story at the time, but now it feels like a story. So thank you for listening. Thanks.
And I noticed that there was some mention of the puppets that Mani would make, and how she would do the shadow puppets. And when I was preparing for this, I read that during the New Life, Baba had the women make puppets. Similar to the ghee business, he thought there might be at some point the possibility that the woman would have a puppet selling business. So I just wanted to share that, and also to share how amazing Mani was in our lives and in how much she gave to each and all of us. Jai Baba.
How Mani gave to us, to me, after she went to Baba. Remember, Dr. Goher had given out little gifts that Mani had left for those who knew her. And the one that was given to me was a heart. It was rose quartz with 2 silver dolphins surrounding it. And I remember working in a school. It was a boarding school. It was a very difficult time. And someone suggested, put something over your heart. And so that heart that Mani had given me with the 2 dolphins was my little protective heart. I just wanted to share one thing Mani had shared. And I'm sure everyone has some little thing that Mani's presence keeps giving to us. And I just wanted to also respond that I had, my eyes were really for Mara. My first years, I couldn't see anybody else. Somehow that's how it was. And I remember feeling so badly that Mani had come to me, and it just, I couldn't, it just responded to Mara. And I was sharing with somebody, I don't remember who, Nehru, maybe Shelley, anyway, somebody, and they said, oh, Mani would understand. She would want the attention to be on Baba and Mara. And I was so touched by that. And then I thought, somebody had also told me that Mani had said, imagine what it's like to be always second. And I thought of that too, and how much love Mani has for Baba, and how all the suffering that we also have to go through in being near Baba, that she had her whole life too. But look how she shared with us that vibrance of the joy of being near Baba. And I'm hoping that next lifetime we all get to be near and serve him too.
From a trip in 1978, I've really never shared with a lot of people, but when it comes up, it was a Merazad day. We're sitting on Mara's porch on one of the stools that was down on the ground, but a high stool, so you're kind of at body level. And I was on the far edge, if you're facing the house, the right side. But it was a trust day. And Bal and Erich and Mani and Rano were working at the trust. I think it was a Thursday. And so it was getting toward the afternoon, and their car drove them back to Merazad and left them out at the gate. And I could hear them coming, and I was because of my position at the far edge of the porch, I could turn my head and see them coming up the walk through the Greek gate. And it was Monty in front, followed by Baal and Rano and Erich. And I took a look, and this just happened in like 3 seconds, but it was profound. Monty was exhausted. Her body was like, she was dragging herself, looking somewhere else. She had had a hard day at the office, clearly. And then Erich and Baal and Rana were walking behind them. And the second she turned the corner, and again, I think I'm the only person who saw this. The second she turned the corner, all of a sudden she realized, oh, the people are here, the pilgrims are here with Mara. And in an instant, she closed her eyes just for a moment, and she opened them. And it was like, you know how a rose opens in fast motion photography? It was just like, she went, oh, I am so glad to see you all. I mean, she didn't literally say that loudly, but I could kind of tell that's what she was trying to say. And then she walked up with her usual bright Monty smile. And that was just a moment that I just realized, for me, that was profound. And over the years, when I was in my office and my job and exhausted and stressed and failing all the tests, I would sometimes think to myself, what would Monty do? What would Monty do? But over the years, as I look back on that moment, I realized that's just something she did with Baba every day, all the time. Every day, all the time. And I'm just grateful to have met her and have been with her in the Mandali. Jai Baba.
I don't remember so many specific stories, but just, the quality of who Mani was, her exuberance, tenderness, and the way she made you feel at home. I remember one time I had come back from Baramangala and I'd met her on the porch, and it was something about a jacket she was wearing, a brown jacket as I recall, and something that I was wearing. But it just made a connection that, it's just so endearing, the way, the feelings just remain ever present. And if the story comes, it does, but I can't remember the details except, receiving an embrace. And that was, I guess, in 94 and 95. But thank you for asking, Ruth.
I just wanted to say to Wayne, boy, that was mine to a T, absolutely. And I really can't add more than that. Well, she was a great songwriter, as you all probably know. And I guess the important thing to leave us all with was one of the little songs she wrote later in life. It was a little sort of jingle in Gujarati, which Baba Nuna Lata Jajo, which means go on taking Baba's name. And Baba Nuna means Baba's name, Lata Jajo, go on taking Baba's name. And you sing over and over. And then the verses, as it were, are these pairs of words in Gujarati. I don't speak Gujarati, but actually being around her, because she was so animated I began to believe, oh, I know Gujarati. I can understand Gujarati because I could understand her. When she'd be talking, the women, minds would be that, just ears flapping. Oh, I can understand. And then I thought, oh, I'm pretty smart. I can understand Gujarati. And then, and then I was actually at Baba House in Pune, and Purinmai was there speaking Gujarati and not a single word, of course, because I don't Gujarati. Honey, she just, whatever language, So anyway, the way she explained the song was that in Gujarati there are pairs of words that always go together. Hastaramta, laughing and singing. I think, please. I'm not exactly sure. I don't have the words in front of me. But one day she came to the trust office and she had her song that she worked out, Ranta, cooking, sewing. There's a whole long list, and she took that those words, those phrases, those double words that always go together in Gujarati, and wrote her the song. And I'll sing the chorus, and she liked to sing it, and we would sing it together occasionally, and it was just fun. And I think that's her message for all of us, for all time. No matter what you're doing, you're laughing, you're dancing, you're jumping, you're singing, you're cooking, you're sewing, you're doing everything in life, just go on taking Baba's name. Baba Nunam, Baba Nunam, Baba Nunam, Lata Jo, Lata Jo, Lata Jo, Baba Nunam, Lata Jo. Ranta Sinta, Baba Nunam, Lata Jo, Lata Jo. Hasta Ramban, Baba Nunam, Lata Jo, Lata Jo. Lata Jo, Baba Nunam, Lata Jo. So go on taking Baba's name. Jai Baba.
Meher Baba ki
Jai.
Avatar
Meher Baba
Baba
ki
ki Jai.
Meher Baba
Ki Jai.
Jai.